All right. Let's go ahead and start talking about some crypto here. Yeah. Actually, since you got Dynamo up, let's talk about Dynamo. I
Yeah.
haven't really been involved in Dynamo directly. I'll pop my head in from time to time. We did mention this on the last Crypto Chillin' chat, but Em, you've been hanging there, right? Oh, by the way, welcome Em. Welcome to the
Definitely.
Crypto Chillin' chat.
Thank you.
All right,
Good to
we're
be
just
here. I think this is my
just
first one.
we're just hanging out, dude. We're just hanging out.
Yep. Yep.
That's what Sunday's for.
Just hang out. So what's
Yeah,
been going on?
I hanging out there. I don't know if you've been paying any attention, Jake, but Sean is certainly working on developing the game, and the game, at
Hmm.
this point is a demo, essentially. Not that it won't become an actual real playable thing, but the main intent is that it's kind of a proof of concept.
Yep.
He's also in discussion with some other studios. He can't say the names of yet, but they are
Nope.
not inconsequential. Um, and discussions so far have been extremely positive. So I think we'll be in short order hearing more about that. Looks like there's one that's pretty interested in trying out using Dynamo. Sean has, I don't know what engine they're running in, but Sean has built a gateway in engine between UE4, Unreal Engine 4, and Dynamo directly, the chain,
Hmm.
which is cool, very cool.
I heard rumor
Make,
says that he's using that AAA company is going to be Epic Games.
oh, really? Okay.
It could be. It could be. Epic Games is in favor, as we said in the news today. So.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. That's the only reason why I brought it up because we're literally just talking about that right now.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Yep.
Um, so beyond that, the biggest thing that's happening right now is Sean is looking for a little guidance from the community on a couple of topics. So there's a few things going on here. One is getting the VM completely integrated into Core and with miners, and essentially the code is pretty much done, but it's going to require hard fork. And we're going to try and do this in the smartest way possible, which is to put everything we want and we can think of in this hard fork. Because obviously, we want to do as few of those as we can, and it's better, of course, to do it in these early days. So
Definitely.
so we're really thinking about and think about this, John. You too. We're trying to think about what the best way is to implement fees, like gas fees, for the virtual machine. Um, Sean's concern is not having basically VNs that can run forever without having to pay something, so that we don't have the equivalent of VM spam
Well,
just
okay,
churning
so
things up.
that
Yep.
that was my original concern when the proposal was to have no fees. So it sounds like that's going to be changing now, or what's?
We're this is open discussion right now, trying to think about the best way to do it. So he wants NFT creation to base or to virtually be free, but there probably, I think there should be some kind of a fee for executing smart
I
contracts.
think so too, man.
It
I think so
shouldn't
too.
it shouldn't be it shouldn't be outrageously expensive. And one of the challenges is how do you keep it, down the road from getting too expensive? If you just base it on X amount of Dynamo, down the road, one Dynamo could be worth a lot more
Hmm.
than it is now, and it starts to make it's kind of like the Ethereum problem. Things just get too expensive to make it
Well, that was a lot of the
function.
backlash about Ravencoin when Ravencoin was going up. Now it's pretty much settled. It's been
Right.
going sideways at 10 cents, but when it was up there in price, everyone was starting to get a little frustrated with the price of transaction fee. Like, oh, this is kind of pricey,
Yeah.
especially as it continues to go up.
Yeah, it's a real concern.
Like
So
when
so
you're
that's on the table. Yep. Go
like
ahead.
when you're minting, what was it? When you're creating a main NFT, what does it cost you? Like 500
Five
Raven.
hundred.
Yeah,
Yep.
people were kind of
Right.
like, well, hold on, this should be adjusted properly, especially when when it goes up in price, basically it's only going to be corporations that are going to be able to afford to mint anything, you know.
That's right. So open discussion on the Dynamo side. We're just trying to come up with the smartest, best way to do that. So that's one. Another is we're talking about the proof of storage side, and the best way to charge for that. No, we don't have a perfect answer yet, and when we do come up with maybe the best different options, there will be a community vote, an on-chain vote, which is the third thing that is part of this, is implementing the on-chain voting system, which is so cool and important. Yeah, so you should definitely think about these things. And if you have any ideas or thoughts, absolutely, anyone, just share those on the Dynamo Discord, and it'll all be considered for the best direction to go forward.
Is this going to be on-chain voting?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the goal here is one Dynamo, one vote.
Okay.
And, as a little bit of a model, which I think is cool, is what Helium's doing. They are right now testing out their on-chain voting system. And they're hoping to make it go live in maybe a week or two, something like that. But they're having a test vote right now. And in essence, not to get too deep in the weeds, but to truly prove how much an individual has, as far as the coin itself, for how many votes they get, you need to, in essence, send them somewhere. You get them all back, and the only cost is the transmission fee. So the voting would be super cheap, but in order to prove how many a person really has, you kind of have to move them. So Helium is basically doing the same thing. You're basically paying the fee of moving in order to have your vote carry the weight of how much you own. I personally feel it should definitely be based on how many coins somebody has is equal to one, is equal to X, an equal number of votes. But even that is open for discussion. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. Go ahead.
My concern about that it always reminds me of Steemit, when you get those Steemit whales that kind of forced a vote onto the community, and that was frustrating when the community itself was like, no, we're against this, but the community didn't have the majority. It was the whales that came through, and we're talking about a handful of whales that just pushed all their coins onto the voting mechanism and kind of forced the chain to fork. And that's where you got the Steemit Classic and Steemit. That's my only concern about voting.
So I certainly see that as well. I personally think that as these games come online, if that truly becomes a going concern, we're not going to see, massive whales. It's going to get diluted, is really what I guess I'm trying to say. And so, yes, it's concentrated at the moment because these are extremely early days, and there's not that many people that are mining it right now.
Right. How many wallets were there? There was like less than 1,000 wallets, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember exactly how many, but yes, and I'm sure lots of those are owned by the same people at this point.
Right. Yeah. So you know about that too, because I did bring that up to Sean, that there are some people that are that just have a lot of hardware and just have multiple wallets and just mining that, so they don't hold a majority of the pool. But and technically they do. That's a little concern. Obviously, we need more miners in the network.
Yeah, these are natural market dynamics, though, and and honestly, there's there's a valid point to be made that the people who started out early and are paying electricity and paid for hardware and are making the chain secure in the early days, and have accumulated X percentage of the circulation should have, an equal percentage of say. for what goes forward. I think that's completely fair. Over time, it's naturally going to dilute, and the percentage any one person has will fall. So I really don't have a problem with it. Hopefully, we have good input during these early days from the community that exists, and we have some good decisions that are made. Yeah.
So
One of the things that I was going to say is that the top wallet, if you're watching or not, top wallet used to have almost 100,000 dynamo in it. Has about 20,000 dynamo less than it did for the longest time.
is that the foundational wallet?
I don't know if that's the foundation or not. It used to have 94,500, and now it's down to 77,000. They sold off a good chunk, or else they moved.
I'm sure it's
somewhere
people.
else.
Yeah, I'm sure people are just splitting it. I think people are. They don't want to start tripping whale alert notifications and stuff like that down the road, which causes panic selling in extra volatilities. So that only makes sense. I wouldn't be surprised you see that happening more and more and more. Having large accounts that are showing up at the top of rich lists is just kind of stupid. The only reason to be like that is either ego, which is or laziness, or yeah. So I think you're going to see more and more of that.
All right. What do you think?
Yeah.
It sounds like the community is treating you well, though. So that's a good thing.
I'm actually really curious to know about him and his. And you got all your miners set up for Helium, right?
No, I want to talk about Helium as well. I only have one running at the moment, but yeah, I'm doing it in partnership with a friend. We got a few of them between us, and we each have one at the moment, and yeah, it's pretty cool. The thing that's frustrating right now is that if you have a good antenna set up,
Can you check the
good
price of
location,
helium?
it's roughly 21, but yeah.
Jake-
That's $21.
Jake-
So, I had it up earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you have a good setup where you can send out a great signal, currently you're getting penalized significantly in some cases. The most you can earn with Helium is by witnessing a beacon or a challenge.
Mhm.
And by far that's the most you can earn. And a lot of witnesses are being culled. They're being labeled as invalid, and you get zero reward for the witness. And the reason is, so this really goes back to people abusing helium. They would buy like 5 or 10 or 30 helium miners, put them all in a basement somewhere where they're not broadcasting outside in the real world at all. And then they're completely spoofing their physical location, ideally setting them up in individual hexes in rural areas. And they're all right next to each other, and they all are witnessing each other, and you can make thousands of bucks basically a day. And again, you're providing zero real coverage. You're not providing a service that's intended whatsoever. You're just taking from everybody else, the rewards from everybody else. And so to stop that from happening, the first attempt was to create this curve on the signal strength. And so basically on the RSSI, which is the received signal strength, and the SNR, which is the signal to noise ratio, there's this curve. If you guys want me to share a link that shows the chart of that, would that be cool to share?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Here. Posted in, can we put it in general or where?
Yeah, general's fine.
General? Okay, here you go. So, yeah, so just scroll down a little bit, that green and pink chart right there. Right. So, for example, if you got a good antenna and you're well beyond the minimum distance, a helium miner to count to earn rewards, they have to be at least 300 meters away from a neighboring one. And they're doing this. This is for good reasons. They don't want to incentivize overdoing coverage or redundancy. They want some, but they don't want 1,000 helium miners in a 10-block area because it's pointless. You don't need that much coverage. In fact, you can end up causing interference. So, in essence, if you have a too strong, too good of a signal, you're going to end up in that pink area of that chart, and your witness will be marked invalid, and you earn nothing. And today, there's a ton of false positives for lots of people around the world where they are completely validly providing proof of coverage, even in areas that are rural and there's not too much redundancy at all, but they're not getting to earn. And this was just a poorly created first attempt at stopping the cheaters, and it's really not. It's very far from ideal. So the solution to this, which is POC, Proof of Coverage version 11, it was supposed to launch October 4. It's actually starting, I believe, tomorrow, the 18th of October. If you scroll down a little bit, Jake, what you can see is they're completely doing away with measuring the SNR, the signal to noise ratio. Keep going down. You'll see a completely different chart show up. Here we go, right there. They're completely getting rid of the SNR, the signal to noise ratio. So they're not counting that at all. Now it's just a matter of distance and RSSI. Currently, we're on the red curve, which is extremely lenient. And I believe we'll be switching to POC V11 onto the yellow curve, and perhaps down the road we'll be using the green curve, which is even more strict. But this is a very good thing. First thing is it's going to be far less likely at throwing invalid witnessing out to legitimate witnessers. So that's great. Number two, it's going to be better at calling the people who truly are cheating. Number three, besides just changing this curve, at the moment, for any given witness, like if you're in a very really urban area, and let's just say somebody sends out a beacon and there's 50 hotspots that can receive it and witness it, only the first 25 are the ones who get to earn a reward. The rest get thrown out and they don't count. That incentivizes people with the fastest internet to get the reward, which is not what we want, because this isn't about being high speed. This is about having good coverage and having it be fairly distributed. So they're going to drop the 25 witnesses down to only 10. Only 10 get counted. However, all the witnesses that report in over something like, a couple of minutes of listening, that don't quote me on that, but all the witnesses that report in essentially will then count and get randomly 10 will get randomly selected from all of them, and 10 will get paid out. And this again makes it fair, so the people with the fastest internet don't get preferential treatment. Further, right now, a given hotspot can send out a challenge roughly every 300 blocks. That is going to be shortened to 240, and then ideally later they're going to try and get it down to every 200 blocks. So witnessing should become notably more frequent than it currently is. And what we should see, bottom line here, is that valid people, and especially people in areas that don't have enough coverage yet, are going to be incentivized more. And that's really how it should be, because the point is to get coverage everywhere, and not overcompensate for where there's already enough for too much coverage. So really so that's what's coming up with POC V11 starting tomorrow. I can't wait to see how it works. It's very fun though.
While you were talking about that, I jumped over to the to the Discord server, the Helium Discord server.
Okay.
Well, the Bobcat Discord server.
Yeah.
And I guess there is an issue, like you said, and I'm just going to read this here. This was on October 15th. A Bobcat Miner OTA update 10/15/2021 and Dig Peerbook features. October 15, 2021, Bobcat pushed the latest OTA update at 3 p.m. today. The following updates occurred in this OTA. Number 1, Bobcat Miner firmware update to 1.0.2.31. Number 2, new features added to the Bobcat Diagnoser. This OTA update is for the Bobcat firmware only. There is no change to the Helium firmware. There's 2 new Diagnosers features are designed to help users diagnose network issues and analyze symptoms. It will partially diagnose the zero witness/beacon issue only if such symptoms are caused by DNS settings. We're continuing our investigation the root cause of the zero witness/beacon experienced by some users from batch 21. This continues to be our top priority across content and teams. We will share the results as soon as possible.
So I can talk about that. First of all, I have Bobcat miners, and I am aware of this over-the-air update. By the way, they're over-the-air updates. They are on it. They just mine get that update on time every time.
I noticed that they do that. They've been pushing updates several times a week. Or so.
Right. And some of it's the Helium update, which doesn't come from Bobcat. That just comes from Helium Core network, the guys developing it. And so if they have some update for Helium itself, that still has to get passed out to every brand of hotspot miner. So it's not just Bobcats that are getting that. They all are. Bobcat's firmware updates are specifically to their units to bring improvements or provide fixes for things or things like that. The 2 things in this particular OTA are added features. One is Dig and the other is Peerbook. And so on these hotspot miners, you can go straight to the miner on your local LAN, at home or wherever, and you get a GUI. It's serving a little web server page, and you can check on the health of it, see if it's relayed, see what the temperature is. You can remotely reboot it. You can do all kinds of things. And so it sounds like in a batch of units they shipped out, one particular batch, some of those were having issues. Mine has never had that zero witness issue, so I haven't experienced it at all. But there are some things that anybody getting a Helium miner, regardless of brand, should know. There's something called relaying, and if your hotspot is in relayed mode, it is going to perform suboptimally, and you are going to get less rewards. And the reason is, so relaying basically means if you're not able to forward a port in the router, in the gateway that your Helium hotspot is behind, you are going to be in relayed mode. You need to just open up one port and forward it to your hotspot miner, which you're going to give a static LAN IP address. If you do that, you're open. If you don't, you're relayed, and that means that it cannot receive traffic initiated from the internet to your hotspot miner, and so that info will have to be relayed from other hotspot miners over the 900 megahertz network to your hotspot, which is much slower and less consistent, and so you're probably going to miss a lot of rewards because your hotspot miner won't be able to respond in time to the chain. So for anyone thinking about getting one of these, if you don't have access to your router or gateway and can forward the required port, definitely reconsider getting one or where you may put one, because it's certainly a negative. I didn't know about it until after I got mine. It's not a problem for me. I can easily open a port, and I've done that, and it's not an issue. But not everyone can do that. With
You see this?
Starlink, for example, you cannot forward your forward ports. No, what do we got here?
Well, I was just going through all the sorry to interrupt, Em.
No problem. Go ahead.
What the helium ecosystem supports. I never even realized this, but when I popped this up, like, oh my goodness, Lime Scooter. Lime Scooter is on the Helium network.
Yeah, so they just partnered with Actility, I believe it is, and
Okay.
Actility um, is a is a network coverage provider for LoRaWAN that's been around for a while, and they have network coverage in 50 countries. And Helium just announced this, I don't know, a few days ago. It was this week
Wow.
that they partner with them, and everybody that's got an IoT device that runs on the Actility network can now use it on the Helium
Yeah.
network as well,
Sweet.
which is a big deal.
That's cool.
By the way, um, I don't know if I should give this little tidbit away. I mean, if you're already a Helium miner, you're in the right spot. You'd already know it. But living near an interstate or major railroad tracks or waterways with shipping is going to get you real world paid for by customers data going through your hotspots right now. I can't believe it already is happening, but it is like virtually every day for me. Um, and I thought it would maybe be like a year or two before I saw actual market use of the network. But nope, it's already happening. It was happening the first day I turned mine on. Couldn't
Wow.
believe it.
That's
That's
pretty cool,
And
awesome.
man. There's a lot going. I didn't realize.
I think it's asset tracking at the moment that's one of the biggest use cases. People are
Right.
putting an IoT asset tracker on like a shipping container
Yep.
or the trailer for a semi or a barge
Hmm.
or a rail car, whatever it might be. And as those things are cruising along the country, they're pinging out to update their location. And
Yep.
yeah, it's very cool that it's already being used.
Is it?
And a Helium hotspot operator gets paid for that.
Yep.
That's
It's
awesome.
not a it's super low cost, but it's very cool that it's already
Yeah.
serving a real use case.
Is that partnership with San Jose on there, Jake?
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't gotten to the S's. I don't guess we're in the S's now. But I don't know if it's going to say San Jose. It's probably going to say the company that San Jose partnered with, but I don't remember the name of that company. But to what Em was pointing out, um, the one thing I'm most looking forward to is the 5G functionality that they're planning on
Mm-hmm.
integrating. The thing that's making me go, I mean, obviously the whole thing of 5G, and the reason, sadly, whatever weird group of people out there seems to think 5G is dangerous, it's just new tech, right? Everyone's scared of new tech that's not
It's going to fry your brain.
in the realm of understanding what it means. We did back in 2004 when I worked for Maxim Integrated. We did a full-scale analysis of the microwave energy given off by a cell phone transmission antenna. So we literally tested. We put well, we didn't put all the cell phones we could, but we put as many as we could into one area and then tested the actual microwave transmission. And from 8 inches away 8 inches away from a cell phone transmission, at that point you have so little radiation transmission. Granted, the cell phone antenna is much closer to your head, and I would still advise anybody who's scared of this to just use a Bluetooth headset, because the energy transmission at that point is really, really low. But the 8 inches away from a cell phone, you have such a low transmission of energy, you can barely measure it. Now,
Yeah.
people were most concerned about having next to your head, but we figured out that you'd have to have 500 cell phones in the same, 5-inch volumetric area, which is actually technically impossible before you get enough microwave energy to even cook an egg, let alone your brain. And so we basically proved, with a non-scientific paper, but through our own estimation, since Maxim did microwave transmission circuitry, we measured it all on a regular basis. It's something we actually did. We proved that you cannot get brain cancer from any number of cell phones, let alone just one. But regardless of that fact, the point I'm trying to get at is that the 5G thing that I'm really looking forward to this is that and Comcast, the internet provider company, has kind of already gone this direction. But I'm looking forward to this 5G thing because everybody's got internet, right? You just get one of these 5G modifier devices, put it in your house, and you would offer 5G service on the blockchain, and then we can get rid of Verizon or AT&T. Now, granted, there's going to be places where Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile are still going to be more valuable because people don't live everywhere. But even so, it's from a standpoint of like, maybe you could drop onto another network where you're paying through, through crypto instead of through that company. Like right now, it's not unheard of for a person for unlimited data services to pay, $80-$90 a month just for one device. I don't know what the price of this will be once it gets to the point of being practical, but I really hope it balances out the cost. I really hope that some company, maybe an MVNO, will go through and do this and say, you know what, we're going to go on blockchain. You know what, we're going to make it fair to people and not make it a price gouging game. So.
Yeah. So Jake, do you happen to know what the range of these are? These 5G units?
About 300 meters.
300 meters line of sight?
No, sorry. 300 meters or 300 yards? Well, I mean, I'm not yards. 300 feet, excuse me. Not 300 meters, not 1,000 feet. It's 300 feet. So 1,000 meters, closer to 1,100 meters. My bad. It's very short. Unfortunately, 5G is very short range.
You shifted a lot of units and numbers there.
Right,
What's
let me
the
say
final answer? Yeah.
300 feet. 300 feet is the range of. Now, line of sight, you could probably go further, but typically it's around 300 feet. That's the problem with 5G is it's such high frequency.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about gigahertz, right? Very high gigahertz. And on top of that, it is directly line of sight only. Like I think it was Linus Tech Tips did this a while back, and they tried doing the 60 gigahertz Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I saw that.
6G.
So I didn't think 5G was 5 gigahertz. It's 5th generation. I thought it was.
I know. I'm not. All right.
Okay.
To be clear,
Yep.
for those who are listening, and just for us,
Yep.
the 5th generation of data throughput is in a much higher frequency, so that you can have higher throughput. When Verizon first rolled this out 2 years ago, Sacramento was a test bed, Sacramento, California, and they had to put their antennas up to get decent coverage literally every 300 feet. So there's very strange towers all over eastern Sacramento. And people are like, what is that weird pole? Why is it so fat at the top? Well, it's because it has to house a lot of equipment. Now, the equipment is much smaller than you see on top of buildings, for the 4G networks, LTE that's out there. LTE's got a range of, I think, 2 miles line of sight, but it also has the ability, since it's a lower frequency and it can bounce off of things and go through things, because the radio wavelength is so much wider or so much longer than the high gigahertz frequency that we're using with the 5th generation. Now, T-Mobile does do 5G at 600 megahertz, which is really low, relatively speaking. But most of Verizon, AT&T, and then the proper 5G that's expected, or 5th generation is expected, is supposed to be somewhere between 24 gigahertz and 60 gigahertz. And the problem with that is you can literally not bounce it through a building. You can't even bounce it through a solid body. You can't even go around it. It will just get absorbed right into whatever it hits. So unless you're literally line of sight, and there's no trees, no water, and barely any moisture of any sort blocking your way, like a paper cup, or not a paper cup, maybe like a piece of paper could blow through the sky and block your signal temporarily. So
the way I look at it is that cell phone companies have the licensed spectrum that they bought, and that is it varies a little bit for each carrier. Some share or very have bands that are very close to each other. They're almost the same frequency, but they all kind of have chunks of spectrum in different spots. And you're right, T-Mobile basically, if I'm not mistaken, because they merged with Sprint and because Sprint had Nextel with IDEN, and IDEN
Yep.
got their frequencies from taxi cab companies,
Yep.
which is very valuable. 600 megahertz. It's not super fast, but it has
Nope.
excellent penetration
Exactly.
and long range. So anyway, 4G, 5G, it's not so much about the frequency. It's about what they're how they're sending data and how they're maybe doing beam forming and things like that with any given frequency. So I'm really curious on this particular Helium 5G unit, which frequencies it supports. Do you happen to know?
I don't know yet. Like I said,
Okay.
I'm showing this picture this whole time, but they're not really giving a whole lot of details. So
Because if it does support 600 megahertz as well as higher frequencies, well, it may actually support a lot more range on the lower bands, and of course shorter range and higher bands. And it'd be cool to know this. Um,
regardless of that, the thing that I'm personally most interested in is the idea of providing a service that's not
yeah,
wholly dependent upon one company. So this is
of course.
decentralization of the services available to everyone, and then it incentivizes the individual, as we know, to support it. That's the whole point of the Helium network, is it's incentivizing the individual. The more, as you were saying, you're making the point that is incentivizing people in more rural areas, which is the whole thing the United States government has been trying so long to get. I mean, I can't remember how much money they gave to Verizon 22 years ago in the late 90s. In 1999, I think they gave them $600 billion and said expand the network to the rural areas. And what did Verizon do? Not that. I will say that Verizon,
Mhm.
above all other networks, has the best rural capabilities. Like if I want to go in the mountains, particularly the mountains here, the Sierras, the only service I want to have is Verizon, because Verizon actually is, for some reason, out there, and you can get, I think, 3G services almost anywhere in the mountains here in California, and that's also true when I was in Colorado. Um, so Verizon at least did that. Their 3G service is still out there, um, but this this concept is incentivizing outside of the normal, single company incentivization. Because I mean, Verizon could at any time decide to just screw all their rural constituents, um, and then there's like, well, why we bought this hardware and we can't use it anymore? Exactly. Verizon decided to go a different direction because they couldn't support it. The blockchain doesn't care about that. So
So I
I'm
just looked it up. Yeah, I'm fully on board with that. My critical thinking comes down to if you're going to actually operate these. Those are not cheap. I don't know what the exact price is, but what, a couple grand,
$1,000.
something like
It says
$1,000. Okay.
Reasonify expects the end-to-end 5G setup to cost between 1,000 and 5,000.
Wow.
Okay, so we split the difference, $2,500, and
Right.
if it really is only short, super short range, and you're in a rural area, well, you're not providing a lot of coverage with it unless
Nope.
you got lots of people providing coverage, and you're probably not going to get a lot of traffic. So
Yep.
it's probably, it's cool, but so I looked up the frequency it runs on. It runs on the Helium version. It runs on 3.5 gigahertz, which is
Okay.
citizen band radio service.
Wow. CB radio. Cool.
Yeah. So 3.5 gigahertz is actually not a bad frequency. I mean, it's
Nope.
basically a little higher than Wi-Fi. It's
Yep.
well below 5.8.
Yep.
So I would say that I don't know how much power that thing has, but that actually could provide a decent amount of range via line of sight.
Yep.
Actually, not bad. I bet that could easily go a few miles line of sight.
Yep. Probably. I mean, Bluetooth can go. I think the longest scope Bluetooth has ever gotten is 15 miles. That's
Yeah, that's
ridiculously long
cool.
for Bluetooth, but
Right.
it is technically possible if you fire it at high enough
Sure.
power. So the same thing may be also true for helium. I mean, the problem, of course, is getting a place where you have line of sight. But the point is, as I think this is the key thing that John and I have talked about, and even other people and I have talked about, is DAOs, is the decentralization of it, of the functionality or the voting process or it's based on the people who use it, not on the people who are just holding cash. The reason I think that to tie this more to the idea that I think Sean was going for with having both proof of work and proof of stake. You're not just relying on one or the other. You're not saying, okay, now we're going all proof of work, proof of stake. Now it's just up to the whales. Well, you're going proof of work. It's up to the people who are mining. Everybody has a share in what they want to do. It's not one or the other, and the little people still have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get away from the whole point of crypto is to get away from the establishment.
I agree. I totally agree. Let me share another little tidbit I learned from having a helium hotspot. A little bit about RF. Okay. Pop quiz here. What do you think attenuates a radio frequency signal more? I'll give you 3 options here. Cinder block, a house, just a standard house wall, drywall, studs, insulation, and wood siding, or double pane window glass.
Depends on what the glass is made of, but I would say.
What do you mean by
block.
what the glass? What do you mean by what the glass is made out of?
Some glass has a coating on it, and that coating is blocked.
Like a low E coating, right? Yep. Okay.
You'd hope it was low E coating, but in any case, yeah.
Cinder blocks, right?
Right. Cinder blocks could definitely be the worst attenuator. I mean, wood does attenuate, but it is a translucent material. Windows tend not to, unless I said there's maybe an aluminum coating in there. In which case it would be very attenuative. But I would say cinder blocks would be the worst.
Okay. Well, the main point here was I think the windows could actually be worse than the cinder block especially if they have that coating. Now, if it's a single pane, and it's not coated, it's the best. Mm-hmm. If it's double pane and not coated, it's terrible. It's really bad. The glass causes refraction of the radio beam, and it's impressive how much it attenuates. And then if you have a low E coating, like copper is often used, that's why windows sometimes have a slightly kind of, that tint,
orangey color.
Tint. Yeah, sometimes they're orange or green or different colors, but that makes it even far worse. You're better off having your antenna against the wall than sitting on your windowsill, which I had no idea it was that massive of a difference. But Helium often shows their helium miners sitting on a windowsill with the antenna against the window as that being the best location. And that's not necessarily the case.
For newer homes, yeah. For older homes, it's fine. For newer homes, it's not fine.
You are by far, if you can get your antenna outside, it makes a dramatic difference.
It absolutely does.
Just massive.
Mounted on a flagpole or any pole that you can get up high. Anything that's a good 6 feet above the top of your house is the best place to put it if you can.
Right. And then there's all kinds of, interesting info. This stuff I did know about, but just the different types of antennas that are out there. Typically you're going to be using a dipole antenna, which is omnidirectional, but it focuses its strength horizontally. And the different gains give you a narrower and narrower donut, if you will, of strength. So if you're on flat ground, you can go with a very high gain dipole antenna and you're going to be in good shape. If you've got topography and or lots of tall buildings and things like that are obstructions, you are going to be served poorly by a very high gain antenna. And if you mount the high gain antenna too high in a flat area, you may end up just skipping over lots of the nearby locations around you
because of the format of the beam,
the shape of that. Yeah. So it's very cool learning about this stuff and trying to figure out what is the best for your specific area. I still to this day think that I heard that Helium is using the Uber hex map tiles for their map system. But if it's like somebody on purpose, some brilliant guy on purpose decided to build the map out of hex tiles because it makes it feel like a game, and it
Yep.
seriously is fun having a few hotspots and optimizing things and just seeing what you're witnessing and missing, and it is extremely fun. Very cool.
Completely agree with that.
Did you ever? Do you have any on the way yet or not yet?
I haven't purchased
On
any,
order?
John.
No.
The C3 Media has
There's
purchased one.
Yeah,
Cool.
we have one, and
There's a lot more.
I think we're in batch 23, which is the next batch coming out.
Bobcat.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Are you, John? Are you planning to just try and have it indoors, or are you in a spot where you can put it outside, or do you not know yet?
Uh,
Your antenna.
I would like to have it outside. I have a balcony on the second floor.
Yeah, you could pretty easily put it on the balcony without having any issue.
Yeah.
Right. And then, have you looked at how many?
What about
units are
putting it in
around?
the attic? Would the attic work?
No, it'd be better to be clear of
Well,
all obstructions if at all possible.
Actually, an attic isn't bad, but it depends on what your roof is made out of. If you have a composite roof, an attic can actually be really good because it's thinner than the walls. And but if you have a metal roof, the attic is not going to be good.
No.
Yep.
Okay.
So, what does it look like as far as other established hotspots in your general vicinity? Are there already some that are in your exact hex or near you, or what?
Yeah, actually, can you pull up the map, Jake?
Sure thing.
So you get another thing to think about is, if you get too many in a hex, you all get penalized. You all get a penalty on earning. Now, this doesn't mean don't do it, but at a certain point, it kind of becomes pointless to add another hotspot to an already very crowded
Yeah,
area.
that's my area right there. The 5. If you go up to the 5, right there, that's my area.
You would be in the 5. Okay. So what's good though is you are within range of hexes that only have one. So if you can communicate with like that one that's off to the east, yeah, exactly, those two, right? You're gonna you shouldn't be too penalized with them. I can't wait to see what your results are.
Actually, you know what? I think.
then,
hold on.
if you-
I think I'm actually. I'm in the 10. Sorry. Actually, no. Down. A little further down.
You're
Right.
actually
Yeah,
here.
that in there. Yeah, that's my area.
One? Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And there's 3 of them, 3 empties around here, so you'll be able to serve this one and this one. You're in this one, aren't you?
Yep.
You're gonna be. Is it pretty flat there, John, or what?
No, it's hilly.
no, it's a
This is
hill.
all
It's-
along hill
yeah.
here. This
Well,
whole
so-
area is all
Does it
just
go
hill
up?
to the
It goes
mountains.
straight up
Does
to the
it go?
mountains.
Does it go up? Is it going up to the east and down to the west?
Yeah, this is
Yes.
east, and this down to the west. Yeah, so like this
Okay,
is the bay, right? So
So you're actually high. You're above everything to the
yeah,
west.
he is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Well,
awesome.
one problem is that there's another small range of mountains right here. This direction.
Okay.
So he's
But
kind of
there's
in
a
a
lot
small
of-
valley.
But for the 10 hexes directly around him, is he relatively a little above them?
No, I'd say all right. So this area is higher. This area is higher. This is more valley right here.
Okay. Okay. So
There's
so in the valley area, there's probably about 10 hexes that are a little below him.
this
Because
one.
he's going to be.
It's hard to say. These ones are the ones he's looking for. This one, this one, this one, this one. These ones over here are actually better. And the problem, I think, is that his balcony faces north. So
Okay.
it's going to be hard to serve these ones. Unless he
You'll
puts
be-
it, unless he mounts it up above the roof.
You might be surprised. First of all, if you just get the thing outside, you're going to be way ahead. The antenna the Bobcat comes with is good compared to the stock antenna most of the other ones come with. It's a 4 dBi antenna. Having said that, you may want to upgrade. In the area I was at, for me, a 6 dBi was kind of ideal, and I ended up putting it on a roof outside.
It,
I know you're
And
near
go
the
get
mountain,
if
but
in regards,
yeah,
in regards to
I'm not gonna dox myself with the location, so don't even look for me.
somewhere up here in Portland, I know.
Somewhere in there, yeah. Um,
Not a lot
so
of stuff out here, actually.
I do recommend though that you get a LMR, or excuse me, a 400 grade cable, John. If you do get an outdoor antenna and you
okay.
need a little bit of a longer cable to get there, the 400s have they're also 600s, which I think are excessive. But get a 400. It's got negligible loss in the cable.
Wow.
Um,
You should put it up at
and
my house. I'm out here in Rockland, Roseville area, and there's
that's a
like, look at
great
all these
spot.
twos and ones and nuns. Way
What's the
better out here.
topography like too for you?
It's
Fairly
mostly
flat.
flat. Mostly flat.
You would
But
you would reach a lot of
I'm in a
those.
3-story. I'm in a 3-story place, so
You would reach a lot of those, I bet.
yes, I
Yep.
would. I should just buy my own. Leave the other one for John. So
Yeah, so you can play around. You can also get patch antennas if you really want to just go in a certain specific direction.
Where do you
That's
buy the
up for
upgrades?
you,
Do you buy
but
it from the website directly, or can I?
so I I ended up getting my antenna from a place called Rockland.com, ROKLAND.com. You want to get an antenna that's tuned specifically for 915 megahertz. Um, Not all of them
Rockland or
are.
Rockland?
Without the C?
ROKLAND.
Without the C?
ROK.
Without the C? No C.
Oh,
Listen,
okay.
yep.
Sorry, my bad.
ROKLAND.com. Yeah. So I ended up getting their low profile 6 dBi, and then I got a couple different cables. One's a 16 footer, one's a 30 footer on the
Antennas.
400. Go to. No, it's not that. Hold on. Okay, so it's not the alpha stuff. I'm going to go to their website. It's hard for me to read it in the stream. I'll find it for you.
It's nice 2,000 milliwatt
That's a nice
indoor
one.
outdoor
That's
Wi-Fi.
only $30,
Oh.
dude.
See,
That's a good price.
yeah. So I got the 6 dBi low profile. Did you click on helium on the right?
Helium on the right?
Excuse me, on the left. On the left. Helium mining and lo-fi.
Yeah, I just
There you go. That's what you're on. Okay, right there. The 6 dBi right there. This is pre-order. It was in stock. That's the one I got. So I have that antenna, and then for the cables. By the way, the cable on all the Bobcats or most of the miners is RP SMA, and then the antennas are N. So if you click on cables and connectors on the left, yep, and then scroll down just a little bit and look at the first 16 footer that's RFC 400. You're on that. Nope, just below, right there.
This one?
Yeah, RFC 400. That's the
Yeah,
one. Yep.
RFC 400. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the grade you want. You're going to want 400 grade because it has a lot less loss. In fact, it'll tell you for that 16-foot cable, it's going to have a negative 4 dBi, 4 dB loss, I believe. Excuse me, negative 0.6. Yep, negative 0.6.
So it's about $100 to upgrade to the next level because the antennas is about 65 and the cable is about 36.
Right.
So it's about $100.
If you're in the right spot, this will pay for itself pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, if you get how much H&T are you picking up per day now, or do you know?
It varies so much. I'd have to average it over time, and to be honest, because a lot of the people in my area have upgraded their antennas to these good ones, and we're all getting penalized by that stupid dumb curve, which is about to expire tomorrow.
Right.
So,
We'll find out
for
tomorrow,
example, the other day I missed 4 witnesses. They were all marked invalid because the signal was too good. Right. So right now, I probably would be better off on the stock antenna technically than the good antenna, but that's all about to change.
Yeah, so the antenna plus the cable is about $100,
Cool.
so that's not
Well,
bad.
It's a nice website. I think we'll
It's
be
actually
using
kind of
it.
interesting because the thing that's so fascinating to me about this in general is that back in 2004, I was participating, pardon me, in part of the early off web on basically internet, and I had early Ubiquiti. It wasn't actually called Ubiquiti, but it was basically equivalent to Ubiquiti prosumer hardware, where I was able to beam 150 megabit connection between myself and a fellow who lived in Milpitas. Sunnyvale to Milpitas, about 12 miles away. We weren't just participating, myself with this one other individual. I was participating with all the people in the Bay who were willing to transmit high bandwidth off network signal. And at the time, the entire network consisted of about 30 people. So we had a internet. It was off the internet, although had connection to it through a firewall. And with certain codes, you could actually VPN through the firewall and get into the regular internet. But basically, our own internet. People running their own data connections, and at the time, transmitting things that you probably wouldn't normally transmit to the internet. But it was mostly just like a BBS, and a very fast one at that. I keep thinking of this as being like that, although this is more IoT data, not necessarily just internet traffic. But that's what the 5G thing is kind of aiming at. But of course, some people will still backhaul it to the regular internet that everyone else uses because of there's way more things available there, more things that people want. But even still, that this makes me think of that because it's instead of just doing it for the sake of doing it the altruistic way that I was doing it before, the off network. This is practical in the sense that there's tracking and there's accountability and authorization and all the other functionality that people actually want. So they not just so they can be paid, but so they can make it a fair system. So it's not just owned by the network I was participating was just a bunch of people participating in this one group, and there were occasionally people who got mad and took down their nodes. They're like, I don't want to be in part of this group anymore, so bye. It could have been a central Oakland or a central San Francisco node, and once that thing disappears, you lose all that functionality. But with this, people are incentivized to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe eventually Helium, I don't know if they're already doing this, will incentivize longevity. The longer you've been there, the more clout you have. So, yeah, lose you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Here. By the way, that 6 dBi antenna has a 35-degree vertical beam angle, so just keep that in mind when you're planning, and if that seems ideal for you. That was one of the reasons I picked that one. It was a little taller than some of the other 6 dBi antennas out there.
What's another good antenna you would suggest or recommend?
Well, a patch antenna. I don't know if Rockland has patch antennas, but a patch antenna is a flat antenna that's optimized to send out very high gain in a specific direction, basically like a 30-degree wide cone. And so if you had, for example, nobody behind you that mattered, or nobody very far away, but you had a lot of people that were quite a ways out in a specific direction, you'd be best served by a patch antenna.
Yep. Hyper directional and narrow beam.
So would it be better that I angle it downhill?
In your case, well, 30 degrees.
No.
Keep in mind 30 degrees. You're gonna. You might tilt it like 1 or 2 degrees if that were to help you overall for your topography, but not really. You mostly want to mount these things perfectly vertical.
Yeah, you want to get this stuff, John. This is the direction you want to face, but unfortunately, your balcony, as I recall, faces north.
Right.
So you're going to be trying to hit all this stuff where there's nothing. Granted, there may not be a lot of people living in this space down here because this looks like it has houses.
Yeah, that's just.
But the main road. I don't know if it's going to be able to see the freeway here.
Should be.
See it through the green.
Right there. There it is.
Here's the freeway. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Pretty far away from the freeway.
You've got so much around you, John. You're definitely gonna want an omnidirectional like that one I showed you.
Okay.
And because you don't have extreme topography, I think the 6 dBi is that's at least as high as I think you should go with your game. Usually you're worse off going above something like 6 because that vertical beam angle just gets narrower and narrower and kind of restricts you. Yeah. So yeah, I just start out with the 4 dBi, see what happens, and if you're not happy and you want to try something like the 6 dBi, then do it. Yeah.
All right.
I think you're going to have fun with it, though. I think you're definitely going to be looking at these.
I'm just nervous because I'm not like I'm not confident of setting it up. So hopefully the instructions are very simple that I can do that. You said I had to open up a port. I've never done that before, so we'll see how that works.
Well, we can help you with that. If you can get into your internet router, we can definitely help you forward a port. And then otherwise, it's super simple. You install the app on your phone. You're going to connect to it. You're going to pair it to it via Bluetooth. And once your phone via the app is connected to it via Bluetooth, you will configure the Wi-Fi in the Bobcat to connect to your home Wi-Fi. And that's pretty much it. It's very simple. Oh, and Bobcat has a very, very cool tool that lets you do a fast sync of the blockchain. So the Bobcat itself stores the entire blockchain on it.
I think John might struggle a bit with the connecting to his home router because, as you recall, I already got him into the back-end pages of Comcast router, but he doesn't own the house he's living in. And the guy who does own it, I don't know if he's going to give him access to the back-end.
Okay. So. If he has UPnP enabled on the router, it'll automatically figure that out, I believe. So
universal plug and play. Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah.
I don't think it does by default, but we'll have to see.
Okay. Well, maybe it won't be easy, but we'll do what we can. Having said that, this is cool. So when you turn on any hotspot, Helium hotspot, for the first time, it needs to go synchronize with it needs to go download the entire blockchain for Helium. Just like if you were launching any core wallet for any coin, this mainnet. That, generally speaking, can take from 2 to 5 days for any given Helium miner. It's a slow process. Bobcat and some other manufacturers have a function called Fast Sync, which I highly recommend you use. It gets a blessed copy snapshot of the chain very quickly. Like in a matter of a few minutes, it'll download the whole thing. Wow. And they update the snapshot usually twice a day, I believe. It's actually Helium that does it. So it's, quote, an official snapshot. And then it only has to download over the network the remaining blocks to get to current, which is usually just like, I don't know, 30 to a couple of hundred blocks. So you'll be synced. You should be synced within about 30 to 45 minutes if you use Fast Sync.
Fantastic.
Yep.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. We're a little over an hour. It was great having you on, Em, and you definitely gave us a lot of info on this because honestly, I don't think we had this much information in regards to Helium ever. This is the first. It's great. This is great. I like it.
Cool.
Good information because, especially since we're getting ours, I think we're in the next batch for sure. So yeah, excited for that to happen. All right. With that said, go ahead.
I was just going to say they had a funky change in their order numbering system where it looked like they had 1 million they were going to have to build, and it was going to take us 2 years to get ours. But they just had a major shift in their order numbers. So yeah, I ended up getting mine within the window they initially said, which was 12 to 20 weeks. Yeah. And I'm sure you're about to get yours too. I bet it's pretty much any day you'll see that happy shipping email.
Yeah. Hopefully this coming week. All right.
Look at this. I don't know if you guys are just looking at this. I'm sorry to cap off the here. These single hexes with single people in it. Look at this guy did here. You got 20 HNT in the
Oh, that's
last 30
cool.
days for being out there on the edge. Click on this guy. Not a whole lot, but I don't know what his performance is. 5
So actually, go
HNT,
ahead and click. Go ahead and
39
click on one of
HNT.
those. Like, yeah, go ahead and click on mouse and expand it. You can see all the stats for all of these guys.
Holy
Wow.
moly!
Look at where he's
Wow.
getting. Look, yeah, yeah. So his 7-day average beacons is 503. Check this out. Click on activity next to statistics. It's at the top there. Yeah, and now go to all activity, and you can see everything that hotspot is doing. Take it just a
French
second
is
to
loading
load.
there.
Here we go. Okay, so receiving the rewards. So he witnessed the beacon 33 minutes ago, and he was one of 7 hotspots that witnessed it. And then just above it, you can see the reward he got. I can't quite read that. Is that 0.061
Yeah. Point zero six
or point zero
zero.
six zero
Mm-hmm.
zero? Okay, yeah. So that's the reward he got just for that witness 33 minutes ago. Oh, look right before it. Look underneath it. You see the one that says invalid? Expand the invalid one. No, it's just below. Yeah, there,
One
right
down.
below the
One down.
33
One
minute
down.
one. One,
No, that one.
one below that, right there. Look at the error. Witness RSSI below lower bound. Okay, this is exactly what I was talking about in that chart I sent you earlier. So you see the RSSI is negative 92 dB and the SNR is 10. He basically has too good of a signal. And look at his antenna. It's published at the top. His antenna is 2 meters off the ground and it's 9 dBi. Does that say 9? Right under Pet Lace Mouse at the very top
DBI.
in black. Look up higher.
Up,
Pet Lace
up.
Mouse in
This?
the black. No, higher up. Very high. Above the white section.
Oh, way up here. Okay, sorry.
There you go. Yeah. You see, so he's got a Nebra. It's got a 9 dBi antenna, 2 meters. By the way, that's why he's getting some signals so far away. It's that 9 dBi,
Yeah,
super
ridiculously high
gain
gain.
antenna.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so with that antenna, his signal is too good to that guy that's close. So the one that's got the invalid, it's only 960 meters away, and it's
About
negative
basically a
92.
kilometer. Yeah.
Right, that's right, and that's not too close. That's completely valid. Anything over 300 meters away is good, but that should not have been invalid. That's a false positive, and he doesn't get any reward for that.
Oh, man.
So can you quickly pull up that chart I sent you at the beginning, or do you want me to? Yeah, the link is still in chat. Yeah, that's it. Nope, go up to the green and pink one. Right. Okay. So quickly jump back to the other tab so we can get the numbers on that beacon. Okay. Yeah, expand the invalid one, please. Okay, so we got negative 92 dBi and positive 10 dBi in SR. Okay, let's go back to the chart, please. So with your mouse, put your mouse over negative 92 and plus 10. It'll be in the pink.
Valid. Oh, plus 10 right here.
No. Plus 10,
Plus 10
and negative
plus,
92.
Well, that was
Yep,
negative
plus
10.
10.
Though. His was
No,
negative
it's plus
10.
10. Go check.
Oh, you're right. Plus 10.
Nope.
You're right. Plus 10 here.
Plus 10 and negative 92.
So yeah,
and
that's
see, it's bare. No,
Oh, negative
negative
90 would be
92
here.
is under it. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's
There.
just barely in there, but look at it, right? That's a false positive, and that's what everybody hates this chart, or hates this method. So that's going away, I believe, tomorrow, and so that example of an invalid should not happen anymore, which is going to be a great thing. Nice that you were starting after POC V11. John.
Great.
Well,
You get
it's
to
only
avoid all this.
our level of unfortunate, right? But I mean, had we gotten started at the very, very
True.
beginning with helium, and I knew about helium in the very beginning, I just thought that's who cares until bam, the news hits. Oh, people are making $1,000 a day. Like, oh, well, I should have gotten into it then, shouldn't I? Oh well. Oh, thanks, John,
anyway,
for postponing.
Yeah.
It's cool though to come in here. So scroll back, go back to Pet Lace Mouse, and just scroll down through activity again, and just see if there's any real world transfer data showing up for him. I'm curious if there's anything besides just people witnessing each other. So just scroll down slowly here. That doesn't count. Create a challenge. It'll say data transfer or transfer data.
Transfer
There it is,
packets.
transfer packets. That's real world use right there. Of course, we don't get to know what was being transferred because it's encrypted, which as it should be. But yep, that hotspot for transferring that packet got paid a little bit of helium.
That is fascinating, man. That's pretty cool. I'm starting to like this a lot more now.
Yeah, it is cool. All right, sorry to delay closing out your
That's okay.
recording,
You
but
gave us some good stuff. All right,
good stuff. Right.
let's get that plug in. Make sure for the listeners out there, well, I guess this was all mostly visual, so you got to go to YouTube to see what we're talking about. And don't forget, buy my book.
Yep. Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and check us out
Go-
on Discord. And if you like our content, please donate via Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance, or BAT.
Go ahead,
And
Amazon.
John, before you started this recording, you wanted me to say I want to buy your book, which I do. So please help me figure out how to do that. 'Cause I do
Absolutely,
wanna buy
man.
it.
Of course I will.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Let's get out of here.
All right.